what's up guys, it's Joshy J. So this is going to be part 2 of how I designed Reset Earth. I decided to use this section because I thought it was probably the most interesting out of all of them. And this was one of the sections that we actually sent through to the client to get approval of like the style and kind of what elements we were going to put in the game. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and play through it. A lot of the techniques that I kind of used here, I started off very zoomed out, and you'll find that if you're building scenes that you want them to kind of look quite organic, you want to start like very far out, like far zoomed out. And then I had this watercolor brush. You can see my brush panel there on the left. I had this watercolor brush that I kind of just like bashed a whole bunch of colors in from a distance. I kind of like made selected areas. So I like selected one area and then I kind of like threw in the color there. And in hindsight, probably what I would have done with this, and it's what I started doing in the later stages, is I made this brush that had like a hue jitter in it. So you'll see, like, I think you can change it on the brush settings on the side. You can like choose a color, and then when you painted that brush, it just creates a different hue around that kind of area. So say, for example, I'm painting like a red, and then I use this brush. I actually have it in my brush panel. You can create it really easily. If you guys if you guys don't know how to do it and you want to, just leave it in the comments, and then I'll show you guys how to do it. But you basically, yeah, you can create this hue brush, and then it creates like color variants for you, or just like it creates like more color interest because there's more color variety. And you'll find that that's kind of a key thing when you're looking at like painterly type images versus very flat color type images. So this is more just for, obviously they wanted more of a painterly type of a look. They wanted to see some of the strokes. So I thought I actually started using that brush in the later levels, which worked. It worked really, really well. So anyway, in this case, I kind of had to add the colors in manually, and then I worked out like, yeah, I can actually make this brush, and it looks really cool. And it's so quick. It's like helped me along the way. And a lot of these type of tricks I kind of figured out along the way while I was building it, just like ways to keep it more efficient, because actually like this section actually took quite a while to do. I think it was a course of like 3 days, maybe 2 days. But I mean, in the middle of when I was designing the stuff, they wanted like one section a day, which means they wanted like one whole stage a day. And I mean, that was like a test. That like pushed me really, really hard. And I think that was like the biggest thing. Like, I really think I worked quite fast. Like naturally, I just worked quite fast as an artist. But like working with Rooftop and for the UNEP and for the Reset Earth game, they kind of pushed me to be like, okay, I need to work quicker. So it was kind of like, if you have a superpower and then you're forced to like upgrade your superpower, if that makes sense. And that's kind of, I mean, it's good because people see what your strengths are and they're like, okay, so let's see how much of a strength we can make it. So yeah, that was like one of the greatest things, is that I kind of like learned to work even quicker, which was quite cool. But this scene was quite rad. I think it's in the first stage. It's like halfway through the first stage, and you actually have to like push one of the boxes on one of those cranes. So that crane that you can see in the middle, you have to, so the game mechanics are super rad. If you guys haven't played it, the game's called Reset Earth, if you guys haven't played it, but the game mechanics are so cool. Like, so I think there was one guy writing a lot of the scripting, and then it was me who designed a lot of the graphics and and then there was a guy that was setting it up in Unity, and he would give me all these blocks, and then I would have to build over it. And then the one mechanic that we wanted was this crane that could like lift up and down like that. So I didn't do it on this one, but as I progressed, we worked out a system where I had to build things on different layers. And you'll find this if you're building stuff with 2D games, whatever you want to be interactable needs to be on a separate layer. So for example, say you want the lighting to be very interactable and you want the lighting to like be in front of the character, you need to have that on a separate layer. And so this is what I had to do with the box. So we have the box on a separate layer and then have the crane shaft on a separate layer, so that when she pushed the box in Unity, we could code it to tell it to be interactable. And everything you want in front of the character, you obviously put on a separate layer. But yeah, this stage I really wanted to use to just talk through the process, because this was a lot of it was like a style exploration for me. And there was a lot of back and forth with this one, because I would pass it off to them and then they'd be like, okay, can you make it more painterly here, or can we add these type of elements here? So I was really trying to get a feel for what exactly they wanted the thing to look like and what type of elements we were going to go for. And also with the lighting as well, like you can see that orange light that's there on the end building. I really wanted to think about like what type, because I mean there's so much stuff that's already been done, and I was thinking like what kind of lighting scenarios can I put out there that looks really interesting, that still feels kind of new. We still wanted to create something new and something rad. So that's what I was doing, is like exploring a lot of the lighting. We wanted to build these like smashed screens so this was in 2084, which is like way in the future, and we wanted to see like we wanted to have some glitches and some kind of thing. So I actually had this what is it called? Oh, I can't even think of the word now. It's those dots on comics. I can't even think of the word now, but there's a brush that you have, and then I painted that. I selected the area of the glitch screen and painted that over, and then added, I think I took that to like a color, an overlay layer, and then I put that in there, and it kind of gave it this very like little dotted look, like LED type looking screens, and they actually really liked that, so we stuck with that. You'll notice with the lighting, I only do this towards the end, but I had this so there on the left in my brush panel, you can see it says Cloudy Paint. I actually downloaded a lot of these brushes from one of my favorite artists. But there's that brush that's called Cloudy Paint, and it gives like a very, literally like a cloudy kind of a grungy type of a look. And I thought, let me just try this. And when I tried that lighting, it felt so original. And I haven't seen people use that type of brush for lighting scenes, because, and the way that I worked it out is like, if you turn off all the lights in your room and you're looking at your light and it's like completely dark, and you squint your eyes like this, you see, those lines that shine like that, and it almost looks like there's like a whole bunch of lines like pointing in all types of different directions. And I thought it almost looks like little particles. Like if you squint your eyes and you look at a light, it's like all these little particles. So I kind of took this brush and I painted it in, and I thought like, yo, this works like really well. Like it looks super cool, and I haven't seen anything like it. And I didn't know if they would fly with it, because it's like super loose. We actually, to be honest, I actually didn't even know. The guys I were working with, we didn't know if the UNEP would like fly with this type of a style, but luckily they did. I mean, it's so cool that I got asked to paint in and like build in the style that I already do create, which is so cool. And it's such a blessing as well. And I don't take it for granted, not even 1 minute. So what I did was, that way of painting light, I kind of carried that throughout all the scenes, and it got a lot easier and a lot faster and faster, so this one took really long because we were still exploring what kind of was going on. I mean, we changed the whole background. Like you can see the background's like this smog color now. I originally had it as blue. So a lot of the bounce lighting I had to change. So for example, like if you have a really neat thing to do is, if you want to get a nice painterly look, you have your original light source, and then whatever colors are going around in the scene, like in the background, for example, I have this very like dark, grungy colored smog look. A lot of those colors are actually kind of brought forward into the scene as well. And I kind of like bounce those around on the wall. And it seemed to work really, really well. Another thing I was trying out, like so for me, the stylistic element in this game, I really wanted to push this environment was really loose, and I'm lucky I actually got away with it. I did spend loads of time on it, but I really wanted to push the edge lighting because I think it's a big part of the type of way the type of style that I do stuff in. And I really wanted to see how far I could push this edge lighting. And to be honest, I probably could have, it's not as accurate, it's not as realistic as we would want it, but stylistically I felt it looked really interesting. And I know I've said this before, but like, I would always break the rules for stylistic purposes. This is art. You obviously learn, you obviously learn the rules, but then you learn them enough to learn where to break them. And I always say that, and I think it's very true in art, is like, you got to know the rules really well. And I still feel like, I don't think you could learn all the rules ever, or I don't think you could learn everything there is to learn about art. But I think from a stylistic point of view, I learned the rules enough to be like, okay, here is where I'm going to break them, and I'm okay with that. And I was lucky enough that my team was actually okay with that as well. The guys that I worked with were super cool. The guys at Rooftop, it was such a blessing going there. I went into the studio every now and again, just to follow up, especially at the beginning of stages, because the beginning of stages, we needed to discuss like a lot of what elements were going to be in there. And I would go in, and then we would be a lot of back and forth, and then I would kind of be like sent back home to be like, okay, Josh, go out and just like build this thing. And it was like every day I'd go into my studio, and I had to set like such a rigid time frame for myself, because I didn't want to get burnout. And that was one thing that we couldn't afford. Like, I couldn't afford to burn out because there were no other artists that were working on it at that moment. I think at the end there was a few other fill-in artists who came and like filled in a few places where I maybe missed out, and it was a complete team effort. Like the guys that were setting it up in Unity, and the guy that was writing all the scripting, and like the art directors and myself, it was just such a great team effort to be a part of. Probably one of my favorite team projects I think I've worked on, by far at least. And so yeah, this background was actually a good exploration as well. I actually bashed that photo in there just to get the lights going. And then I took this see that blender brush on the left. When you have colors in there and you're painting on one layer and you smear stuff around, it gets this very, very painterly kind of a look. And it looks very like, it's like you've taken oil paint and you've kind of like swooshed it around. And I was really pushing the boundaries to see how far I could push it. Just in terms of like the backgrounds, because we obviously on the player layers, then we needed to have we still need to have gaps between them, but on the background I wanted to see if I could like make it as one painting, and I think we kind of stuck with a lot of this, which I think looked really cool, and I'm so glad that they did stick with it, because that oily painting kind of light shining through the back looks, I don't know, I was kind of exploring the background, and I was like, this actually really works well. One thing I don't like is about what I did about this is like the backgrounds. They kind of work, like they do push back. I know they push back, and there is smog and fog and whatever. And I did bash in like a PNG just to have like the general shape of the buildings and stuff. And I think if I had more time, or if I could go back, I would definitely push the backgrounds a bit more. They're okay. They look all right. To be honest, we were just focusing on the main platforms, so I didn't have enough time for the backgrounds. But if there's one thing I could do, is I would love to just go and like change those backgrounds, because I think there was a chance that they could look really rad. And also the foreground elements. So you'll see like, a lot of the time, because our deadline was so hectic, a lot of the things that I did was like I took elements from inside the game, and I kind of like cut them out and then pulled them to the front and like sized them up and put them in the corners. I know a lot of 2D games did this, platformer games. I did like a whole bunch of research before, and a lot of them, there'll be the same elements in the front that are in the actual scene, just so like you get the link of what's going on. But again, as I was saying, I would probably, if I had more time, I would have probably gone back and pushed the foreground elements and the background elements like a whole lot more. But I mean, to be honest, the way that they've done it in the game, if you guys have played it, if you haven't, the link is in my bio, or if you just type in Reset Earth, you'll be able to play it. But the way that they've done it, I mean, the parallaxing looks so sick. Like they built the backgrounds in different layers like this, like stacked up. Basically, if you don't know what a parallaxing is, it means like the things in front move like really fast, whereas the things far away move slower. So they set it up in Z space, which is like depth space, and then obviously they had a camera and they had a parallax moving, so it looks like things are moving quite organically. And yeah, I think I could have pushed the background. I could have added probably a bit more billboards and stuff. I think like if I had more time, obviously I would have added more billboards. But I mean, the shapes, I actually have grown a lot since this, and I think the shapes that I'm playing with are really bulky, and they kind of miss out on the big, medium, small shapes that are good to have. Like if you're designing stuff, you want to have really big shapes, really small shapes, really medium shapes. Okay. Well, I think I got the big shapes down. Like I think I really nailed the big shapes, but and maybe the medium shapes, but I think the small shapes I could have done. Like I could have made the lights a little bit smaller. I did reuse a lot of elements. You'll see, like next to the crane, there's that like mechanical round thing. I kind of reused a lot. I reused that, and also reused like a lot of my own graffiti that I made. And I just had like different. I kind of had like different. Like they gave me different words that I could say on there. Like I have no grow in the background there, and I have like ozone and just stuff like that. So I was just kind of practicing. But yeah, all in all, this piece was super rad, because it gave me a lot of clarity as a designer of what to create and like how to create stuff in terms of the lighting, like in terms of what type of colors they wanted, how far I could push it. And like what would work and what wouldn't work. So there was a lot of back and forth with this one, and it was good that there was a lot of back and forth because it gave them and myself a lot of clarity on how we were going to like create this thing, how we were going to build it. And yeah, this is probably my favorite shot out of all of them, not because it's my favorite visually, but just because how much I think I grew in that space of building the levels as like a level designer. So yeah, I mean, this one probably, to be honest, when I finished this, I was like, yo, I would love to just like print this out and put it on my wall just to remind myself how much I grew just in that short space of time. And probably my favorite thing are those guard rays just like shining through the back there. I think it looks so sick. But yeah, so this was kind of part 2 of like how I designed Reset Earth. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you haven't seen the game, it's called Reset Earth. So do yourself a favor, go on the App Store, on Google Play, and if you type in Reset Earth, on Google and you type in Play Store, it'll take you to the link. So yeah, I mean, it's a game about the ozone, but it's like a dystopian kind of a future, very sci-fi and like mechanical. I actually said like after this, I'm not drawing anything mechanical because I spent the whole of 2020 basically drawing mechanical stuff, and this year I just want to draw like fairies and elves and trees and stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.